Dear young generation, I want to start off by saying this letter isn't meant to scold you or demean your character in any way. I just want to share some food for thought if you'll please give me a few moments of your time. The start of 2020 has been rough for us all. I know many of you had big plans for this year and were preparing for big chapters in your life, especially if you're a senior in high school or college. You were looking forward to creating memories, engage in your after-school activities, take on internships, and making the most of this moment in your life. Little did you know, little did we all know, that the United States would face a pandemic which has placed a drastic halt to our way of life. In addition to businesses closing, being laid off from work, and our favorite eateries being restricted to ordering online or carry-out, many schools and universities closed and instructed students to take classes online until further notice. I know this was a hard blow, especially for seniors who discovered they would be deprived of walking across the stage to receive their diplomas. This is a huge milestone for many, and seniors didn't get a chance to say their goodbyes as they prepare for the next stage of their life. To all the graduating seniors, I want to give a huge congratulations. I know it wasn't easy since I was in your footsteps not too long ago. I hope you know that all your hard work and dedication you put in was worth it. Despite everything you face, you show that you are an overcomer. I know that not being able to walk across the stage is a big disappointment to you, but just because your school can't give you your much-needed celebration, I encourage you to celebrate anyway, as long as it's CDC approved. In the age of technology, you can have a celebration with your friends online. I know it may not feel the same, and may even sound a little silly to some, but something is better than nothing. I can relate to your disappointment because I never got to walk across the stage at my college graduation. I remember how my peers and I stood in straight lines and awaited the moment to walk across the stage to receive our diplomas and hear our families scream with joy. Imagine our surprise when we found out on graduation day that all we would do is stand up, turn our tassels to the side, sit back down, and await our diplomas in the mail. Many of us were never informed that this was the regular format for undergraduates at the university I attended, even though graduate students received their time to shine. While I found this unfair for hardworking undergraduates, I was grateful that I at least walked across the stage at my high school graduation. I also reminded myself that even though I couldn't walk on stage in college, no one could take away the time and effort I put forth to reach my goals. When I found out schools were closing, my initial reaction was that this was a good call to stop the coronavirus from spreading any further. But as a few days passed, I asked myself, will students and young people in general really take heed to the instructions given for all of us to follow? As I watched the nation's reaction to a virus that's new for us all, I commend those who have and still continue to take safety precautions not only for themselves and their families, but for the general public. But I must say that I was very disappointed with the actions displayed by the young generation. From a young basketball player jokingly touching microphones and his teammates' belongings to show his lack of concern, to young students frolicking on beaches in large crowds during spring break. From young adults hosting a coronavirus party in Kentucky, to young people posting videos of themselves coughing on produce and licking items to show their fearlessness. While I knew that closures of schools and local hangouts would lead to many young people being bored out of their minds and going against instructions, it was upsetting to see the large amount displayed across the TV screen and on my laptop. I know it's hard for many of you to understand the seriousness of this virus because not only are we receiving misleading and uncertain details from our government and scientists, we also have those who write fake news stories to raise our panic levels. But one thing that is certain is how many people have become severely ill or died from this virus. This is why it's vital for us to do our own research to know what to expect and understand what's going on. Many people have presented the argument that the flu has claimed more lives than the coronavirus, so it must not be as serious as others say. But we must remember that the media doesn't always give us true numbers. So many people have died from this virus that it's hard for people to keep count. Also, since this virus is new to the United States, is still spreading and hasn't had a chance to show how much more destruction it can cause if given a chance to do so. If people continue to ignore orders, this virus may end up reaching the same dangerous numbers as the flu. While staying at home during this pandemic is highly advised, I understand that this isn't easy for many of those who don't consider themselves homebodies. Whether you're a homebody or not, we can all agree that our family members and roommates can really work our nerves. We need breaks to remain sane and be refreshed. Many of us are used to following a certain routine. We also need a chance to relax our minds after a stressful day, and this pandemic isn't making it easy to do so. From what I have seen in the media, I see it's difficult to resist the temptation to break the rules and just focus on having fun. But I strongly encourage you to stay strong. While we all know we have to go out from time to time to pay our bills and stop at the grocery store, the more we practice social distancing, the better. This is hard for many of us to adjust to, and we're eager for things to get better. This is going to sound cliche to say, but these rules are made in an attempt to protect us from this virus and not to harm us. Even though many studies have shown that this virus attacks those who are elderly or have compromised immune systems, young people shouldn't risk catching it. Did any of you know that on March 25th, a 21-year-old woman in the UK named Chloe Middleton died of this virus? What's alarming is that she had no previous health conditions prior to contracting the virus, and her family says she was healthy. It has been said that younger people who become affected should survive if they don't have other conditions or a weak immune system, and yet it claimed this young woman's life. This goes to show that people still don't fully know what this virus is capable of. Don't get me wrong, I know that many young people have fought this off, and I'm not sharing this to scare anyone. This is not a time for us to panic, but why take the chance? While many of us have battled the flu or the common cold, we shouldn't think that we're either incapable of being affected or becoming more immune once we catch it. There are many cases where someone caught this virus, got well, and caught it again later. It's easy for us to have the "it can't happen to me" attitude when it comes to various scenarios. But the reality is, we can easily find ourselves in the same situation as those around us. When I was younger, I used to have this type of mentality when it came to safety. I strongly felt that because my family and I lived in a safe environment, that harm wouldn't dare show its face on our doorstep. And it frustrated me whenever my parents recited the same safety rules to me whenever I had to leave home for school or extracurricular activities. I believed that my parents thought I was irresponsible and would run wild when I wasn't in their sight. But I received a wake-up call one summer during my high school days. Someone attempted to break into my sister's then apartment while she was at home, and my mother was on the phone with her as everything unfolded. My sister ran out to her balcony as the perpetrator continued his attempts to kick her door down. My mother and sister's call then disconnected, and my mom couldn't get in contact with her. It felt like hours were passing as we tried to contact her, praying that she was safe. All thanks and praise goes to God that we were finally able to get in touch with her. She was unharmed, never encountered the perpetrator, and no longer lives in that apartment complex. This was one of the scariest moments of my life, and it's truly a shame that this horrific experience had to happen in order for me to see that nowhere is completely safe. Anyone can be placed in dangerous situations, just as my sister was. This moment also showed me that parents don't recite rules repeatedly because they think you can't be trusted. It's their way of saying, "I love you and I want to ensure that you come back home safely." Take it from me. Don't wait until something hits close to home in order for you to take something seriously. If you do, it could be too late. We have to understand that certain rules are placed in order to ensure our safety. In our society, it's not unusual to hear the term survival of the fittest being thrown around. We are taught to look after ourselves and only ourselves. In addition to this, the pandemic continues to show how many of us are only focused on me, myself, and I. Panic buying continues all across the U.S., and the struggle to find toilet paper and hand sanitizer, two items that one could always count on finding, has now become a scavenger hunt. We have to be mindful of others who need groceries to survive as well. Yes, people can order their groceries online, but it's not easy when there are virtual thieves who view the pandemic as a way to dig into people's wallets through price gouging. The media has told us and emphasized to young people that we should practice social distancing not only for us, but for the elders and those with weak immune systems. I have read the responses from some young people in reference to this. Some have said that the elderly are already close to the grave and we're just extending their lifespan slightly. So what's the point? Others have said that the elderly are draining our sources and the world would be better off without them. Young generation, I want you to know that I'm not holding you at fault for these thoughts. This type of mentality is not instilled in us at birth. It's taught to us as we get older. In our world, we're taught that when workers grow old, they are of no use to us anymore. They are pushed into early retirement because it's believed that younger workers can get the job done quicker and more efficiently, which means more money. It seems that many employers believe that financial stability isn't an issue that our elders face. Many elders have no one but themselves to depend on, and they don't receive the help and respect that they deserve. It's often forgotten that our elders were once in our shoes trying to navigate their way through life in the times they grew up. They carry an abundance of knowledge and experience under their belts, and they deserve to be honored and respected. I remember when I was a Girl Scout, my troops sometimes visited nursing homes and sang songs or played our instruments to entertain those living there. They had such big smiles on their faces and thanked us for coming to brighten their day. Some people don't visit their parents and grandparents who live in nursing homes, so it makes them happy to know someone is thinking of them. It's the reality of the world we live in, but it's truly sad when you think about it. Our elders have faced challenges that we don't face today, and those who came before us made great sacrifices in order for us to have a better life today. This life we live isn't perfect, but we should be grateful for those who fought and laid down their lives for our rights. If it wasn't for them paving the way, what would our lives be like now? Even though some of us don't want to think about it, we're going to get old someday. When we reach that stage of our lives, do we really want others to abuse and disrespect us because of our wrinkles? Those with weakened immune systems include more than just the elderly. It's also for those who have health conditions such as cancer, pneumonia, and chronic lung disease. Another group of people that the media has failed to mention are those with special needs. People who have been diagnosed with autism and Down syndrome are known to have low immune systems. People with special needs are constantly disregarded because the way they express themselves and perform everyday tasks is viewed as unacceptable. A life is a life. No matter how different we look on the outside, we all have feelings, goals, aspirations, and desire to be treated fairly. Young generation, I have heard many of you say that this isn't your problem to deal with. Like I mentioned before, I know we are taught to look after ourselves and only ourselves, but many don't see the flaws in this type of thinking. It's impossible for anyone to accomplish everything on their own. At some point in our lives, we have to be dependent on someone to give us a chance, hear our cries for help, offer some advice, and give us a helping hand. We have to understand if more people, especially those who came before us, refused to step in when injustice and discrimination attacked, we wouldn't have access to many of the sources we have today, such as receiving our education. While I'm not panicking about the coronavirus, I am concerned about it spreading to my family. I have family members who either are in the high-risk age range or have compromised immune systems. My older sister is also pregnant, and unfortunately, she's not taking this virus seriously either. I, on the other hand, can catch things pretty easily. My other family members and I are doing our best to practice social distancing, washing our hands, along with disinfecting areas and surfaces. We're in constant prayer for those infected, the healthcare staff, and cleaning staff workers that are in direct contact with this virus and their families. We're also praying that this virus will come to a stop so so we can all get back to our normal lives. This is a time where we all need to work together and do our part to take care of one another. Imagine if it was your dear grandmother or grandfather, a neighbor who is already fighting a disease, your best friend who you have known for years. What about your parents? I want you to seriously ask yourself this question. If someone had this virus and came to your home or an event you and your loved ones are attending and expressed that they don't care about getting others sick because they don't want to stay home, would you be okay with that? Are you okay with saying goodbye much sooner than you expected to? And what about those with special needs? Do they not deserve a chance to show their capabilities to the world in order to show us that anyone can have a major impact on humankind? I know that death is a subject that many of us don't like to think about, and we all know people die every day, many times unexpectedly. But believe it or not, limiting our time around others through social distancing can greatly save lives. We have to remember that the majority of patients at hospitals as I speak are very young. We have to do something. I know what many of you may be thinking about now. Why am I directing this message to the young generation when there are so many from the older generation who still believe this virus is a hoax? You also might be asking yourself, why should I care when people, especially those in government, don't care about us or our concerns? Well, the answer is simple. You are the future leaders of our society. I know you guys have heard a lot being said about the young generation over the years and during this pandemic. Some people from older generations don't take the young seriously and are quick to call them a threat to our society because they believe that all young people have a reckless attitude. I know not enough people say it, but I want you to know that your existence is important to the world. I, for one, have seen and continue to see the great potential that the young generation holds. You have a voice that has a power to thunder through the world if you trust it. You have the ability to make changes for the things that matter most and to show the older generation that they can learn a thing or two or five from us. Am I saying this is easy? Of course not. Let's be real. Nothing in life is ever easy, whether we like it or not. But that shouldn't stop us from giving our all because we only get out what we put in. When we don't get respect, we have to demand it. When people continue to ignore our concerns, we just have to raise the volume of our voices. When it gets hard, we have to push even harder. Respect yourself because respect demands respect. I know this may seem strange to hear, but we're currently going through a part of history which will later be documented for future generations to read in school textbooks. Do we really want students in the future to flip those pages and see a dark cloud of criticism looming over the young generation? Do we want to be viewed as the troublemakers or the problem solvers? This type of thinking about the young generation needs to stop, and we're not making it easy for others to think otherwise. I know this pandemic is asking us to do a lot, but who said that this would be easy? Let us lead by example and show others that when we're faced with new challenges, we don't run away. We acknowledge their presence and kindly ask them to step aside so we can finish what we need to do. And if the challenge refuses to get out of our way, let us show others that we're not afraid to fight back. We're still going to knock out our goals, and that challenge we're facing, we have to show others that we're not willing to allow it to hold our happiness, our peace, our sanity, our willpower hostage. Young generation, I encourage you to find ways to stay productive during these trying times. Video chat with friends and relatives. Work on those projects that you are constantly putting off. Get involved in new hobbies. Devote a few minutes a day to give your mind a break. There are many videos and articles online that share ways to stay productive during these trying times. We all will overcome this. Think of this pandemic as a test that's worth a large portion of your grade. Are you prepared to pass with flying colors, or will you fail? That's for you to decide. I hope this letter gave you all something to think about and you will take heed to its message. To be honest, I was hesitant on writing this letter because I wasn't sure of the effect it'll have on others. I asked myself, would I be wasting my time writing these words? But I know that's uncertain until I try. If no one else stands up, we have to take that step. And that's what I'm doing right now. If I'm going to encourage others to use their voices, I must lead by example. Thank you all for listening. Practice good hygiene, stay informed, and please stay safe. Our future depends on it. Take this time to grow closer to Christ and thank God for your many blessings. Sincerely, Ashanti.